Welcome to the Daily Space Weather, folks. I'm your host, Dan, aka smAsho. Starting things out looking at a 48-hour SDO view here in 94 angstroms of the sun. Active region setting in the northwest. 2 active regions rising in the southeast. No sunspots. No significant solar flares. No coronal mass ejections. And Krakatau has exploded once again, producing a 45,000-foot plume of ash. We'll get to it. First, we're looking at the coronagraph. This is the SOHO coronagraph, the one located at Lagrange point 1. Nothing too exciting going on there. Here's the LASCO C3. Also from the SOHO spacecraft. Nothing too exciting happening there. And by the way, if you're a content creator, there is a monetization update that YouTube released. We talked about it yesterday briefly. Putting things like extended footage of distressing footage, medical misinformation, pranks and challenges will get your videos demonetized. So vet your information. And that's a little tidbit for content creators. Thanks to all of our viewers. Please take a moment to press like and subscribe if you haven't already. And if you look at the youtube.com/smAshomash homepage, you'll see links to smAshomash.org, Subscribestar, BitChute, and our Patreon as well. So thanks everybody for viewing the videos. And to you BitChute folks, sorry yesterday's video took so long to come out. There was a problem with the processing all day yesterday, probably because so many people are at home putting up content. So also thanks for viewing the video. Now our top video is COVID-19, the disease caused by coronavirus cured by hydroxychloroquine and azithromycin. An over 3-week-old video, by the way. And if you don't follow us on Instagram yet, check us out there. You may hear interesting tidbits like this.
What is fun? Well, let me spell it for you. F is for friends who do stuff together.
Because you can't be serious all the time, folks, you see. Now we're talking about stereo A, and actually this image is very fitting here because we are actually looking at Mercury, I believe, very far off the ecliptic plane. And there's a view at the coronagraph at stereo A. We'll be keeping an eye on that as it swings around the backside of the sun. And thanks to our viewers, such as Sugas and others commenting on it. Mercury going across the view of stereo A. Apparently, it is indeed in the right position, I suppose. I was not aware that you could see that many degrees off of the ecliptic. The ecliptic plane being the plane on which the planets rotate, orbit the sun, folks. Next, we're at HelioView. We're going to look at the fields real quick. And this active region down here is not a sunspot. And there's a 304 angstroms view. Both polar coronal holes looking pretty big. And here's the most recent, excuse me, the most recent activity from former sunspot 2759 as it sets. And a little bit of brightening going on there as you see some ionized iron. That one looks like it collapsed back onto the photosphere, chromosphere rather. And here's the view of the same area in 304 angstroms. You can see the way the ionized helium is behaving a little bit differently than the ionized iron. And lastly, we're going to look at the South Pole region, since there's a very large coronal hole down there. And the local star has coronal holes at the poles all the time. We'll let that play through a second time there to give you a nice view of the South Solar Polar region. Next, we'll look at the 193 angstroms view, if it plays. Come on, SDO, you can do it. check out the chat real quick. All right. And there's the view in 193 angstroms. And we have a coronal hole wind stream arriving as we make the video. We just saw an uptick in the solar wind density in the past hour or two. We'll get to it momentarily. First, look at the KP index, which is at 1. Next, you're going to hear this all over the internet today, this image of the Bepi Colombo spacecraft, which is headed on its way to Mercury, buzzed the Earth. So you see these great images of it. Here's another one, just fantastic. And the 10.7 centimeter radio flux is still at 70. If you want to see those articles and stuff, head to spaceweather.com. They've got the information for it there. Next, we'll look at the solar system. There's where things are now. There's where things will be in a week. As we see a massive convergence over here of Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. And it is those three that are rising early in the morning in that order. Jupiter, Saturn, Mars, rather. And we got the moon near the apex right now. It is a gibbous waning. I like to use in-the-sky.org for sky charts. And normally you can animate them, but perhaps it's a plugin problem with Brave Browser. Not really sure, not concerned. No significant X-ray flaring has happened, although that Sunspot 2759 did release the largest X-ray flare of the entire year. It was only a B-class flare, and no significant proton events going on. And we've put that tab in preparation for the upcoming solar maximum over the next 4 or 5 years. Next, looking at the real-time solar wind, phi angles around 300 degrees, and we see this uptick of the solar wind density coming off the floor from 2.36 protons up to, has it already peaked at 7.1? I have a feeling it's going to get higher than that. Current reading is 6.14 protons per cubic centimeter. Solar wind speed 335 kilometers a second. There's the latest data from ACE. And looking a little bit non-corroborative right now. It seems that there's something wrong with their particle detector. And next we'll look at the geospace magnetosphere movies, and allow me to vanish. And we'll let that play through. That's 4 hours of data. University of Michigan. And shout out to Ben Davidson for debunking all the nonsense about backward magnetic pressure waves and Nibiru and all kinds of other things that don't exist. From garbage data from the old ISWA model. Here's the ground geospace magnetic perturbations. And for you new viewers out there, we're living through a geomagnetic polar excursion. We've got a North Pole over Canada. We've got a North Pole over Siberia. We've got a North Pole creeping into the southern Indian Ocean off of the Antarctic continent. And there are the current ground magnetic perturbations. Nothing too extreme, although we are looking to see this ramp up here as the solar wind density drops down and the speed goes up when the coronal hole wind stream hits in full force. GOES magnetometers are continuing to look spiky here, and we are solidly in the South Pole oriented portion of the heliospheric current sheet. The portion on which we live is totally charged up by the South Solar Polar Field, and you can see it there in red. No end in sight to that. And we're going to continue to see pretty spiky readings here, especially once this denser region gets in between Earth and the Sun. That region right there is going to show us very low magnetometer readings unless it does something like coronally mass eject. We won't get into it too in depth as this is the daily space weather. We'll save that for a cosmology segment video. And there is a cosmology segment included in this one. We'll briefly talk about some things. Here's a line of sight field plot showing you the B field in blue. The B field is the field that goes through the magnet, folks. And nothing to write home about there either. relativistic electrons have found their bottom, and the GOES electron flux should remain cratered for the next about 2 days. So that's the forecast. Don't expect to see big GPS errors, even around the equator at noon. Next, we'll look at the ionosphere. Here's 6 hours of data on that, courtesy Australian Bureau of Meteorology. And it's looking pretty normal up there, really. Nothing to write home about there. We'll get to stuff to write home about momentarily. There's a latest image coming in at 8 o'clock UT. And next we're looking at Krakatau, but we're not going to cover that right now. We're just going to look at the windy.com pressure map. There's where things are now. We'll let that advance about 24 hours via the GFS forecast. Oops, that's the Euro forecast. There's the GFS forecast. And there's where things will be at about noon tomorrow, right there. Significant anticyclones in the North Atlantic, as well as some pretty serious high pressure there over Western Canada. And a pretty powerful looking low there in the Northern Pacific, south of the Aleutian Islands. Next we'll do earthquakes. Past 24 included some deep quakes, such as this one here at the Philippines, a very deep quake, 4.3 magnitude, but 542 kilometers depth. And we'll just scroll up the list here. Here's another deep quake in western South America. It's a 4.4 in Chile at a depth of 132.2 kilometers. Here's another deep quake at Afghanistan. So Afghanistan and Tajikistan both seeing deep quakes. Please have an earthquake plan if you're in a place where buildings will crumble. And if you can't afford to create a bug-out bag or anything like that, just step outside and figure out which buildings might fall on your head as you try to evacuate yours. As any idea of what will happen if an earthquake occurs is better planning than none at all. I believe the largest quake of the past 24 would be this 5.9 at the Philippines, and the bad news is that it's at depth, 148.7 kilometers. If that happened at the surface, that would be over a 6 magnitude event. Hopefully it didn't do too much damage in the Philippines, as they are pretty accustomed to earthquakes. Next we see a 4.5 at depth at Papua New Guinea. That's at 111 kilometers. Here's another western South American quake. It's a 4.5 at Peru at 155 kilometers. And we just had one come in at Idaho, I think. As there's been an ongoing situation there. I'm going to zoom in on it at the end of the segment here. Here's a 4.6 at the south of the Fiji Islands there. It's at 387 kilometers deep. And there's one coming into Cascade, Idaho. And I just want to zoom in on that to show you how many quakes have been happening there. Anyway, there's where that quake is. And it came in right as we did the show. So, not show prep this time. Just straight up during the show. Now, let's talk about the loudest sound ever heard. The loudest sound ever known was when Krakatoa erupted, which was on August 27th of 1883. It was so loud that you could have heard the volcano if it happened in Dublin, Ireland, from Boston. Now, it takes sound 4 hours to cover that distance. It is the loudest and most distant sound ever heard in recorded history. The eruption of Krakatoa. Let's move into the current time. Krakatau has just erupted. And Krakatau is the deadliest volcano, as on December 22nd, 2018, the daughter of Krakatoa, Anak Krakatau, killed hundreds of people on Java's west coast by generating a tsunami, lost a significant portion of its top. It blew its top, folks. If you're wondering where Anak Krakatau is, it's a little tiny island right there, east of Java. And there's what the island looks like. And it has created some new real estate, actually. That's a pretty old image there. And if you're wondering where we are here, it's volcanoyt.com. They got great resources there. And let's do the entire world's rundown. Kluchevskoy, producing a 20,000-foot ash plume as it explodes on the Kamchatka Peninsula. Shiveluch, continuing to put out additional ash here. It's exploding. It's producing a 36,000-foot ash plume close to stratospheric level. Mount Aso, flight level 7,000 there. Kuchinarabu Jima, flight level 4,000 there. Sakurajima, flight level 8,000 there. And the big story on volcanoes is Krakatau. So, flight level 47,000. That's awfully close to the stratosphere. And we're seeing sulfur dioxide plume reaching that height, as well as a strong thermal hotspot. So, yeah. Big time uptick at Krakatau, the deadliest volcano of the past several years. Again, it's killed hundreds of people on Java's west coast just 3 days before Christmas in 2018. Semeru also exploding, or erupting, producing a 14,000-foot plume. Popocatépetl. Come on, folks, say it aloud. Popocatépetl. I believe it's Popocatépetl because of that accent mark. Popocatépetl. It's on my bucket list. Maybe one of these days Mexico will clean up its act and I can go there on vacation. Anyway, it's exploding. It's producing a 20,000-foot ash plume. Mervenador exploding, also 16,000-foot ash plume there. Sabancaya exploding, 24,000-foot ash plume there. And while Nevados de Chilean is doing some intermittent emissions of volcanic ash, please don't take that as a cue to attempt to do a back handspring over the caldera. We're going to do a short cosmology segment today. Since the sun is the Rosetta Star of cosmology, and calculations of how the sun does what it does are the basis for everything else in cosmology, I invite you to head to smAsho.org. If you scroll down, there's a link right here for the newly unveiled smAsho forum. Just click that link, and that'll bring you to smAshomash.com/forum. And we've got a cosmology forum, Earth and geophysics, general science, one just about the sun, a free-for-all, which includes our coronavirus information, which is now over 22 pages long. If you click on the sun forum, there's a huge section there on the liquid metallic hydrogen solar model, where we've got a bunch of articles there by Robitaille. Some articles are linked, some articles are placed in forums in their entirety. So if you're not familiar with that, check it out. Most importantly, read the paper from 2013, 40 lines of evidence for condensed matter, the sun on trial, liquid metallic hydrogen as a solar building block. Now, it's super obvious that the sun is not made of a gaseous plasma, and it's super obvious that the sun is not electric. What's going on the surface has electronic properties. You could say the sun is electronic in terms of its chemical reactions, for instance. But to state that stars are electric would just be incorrect, as the physics don't back it up. And they also don't back up a nuclear dynamo gaseous plasma. In other words, in cosmology, when somebody tells you that the universe is made of 99.999% plasma, sorry, they're incorrect. So, also check out the Daniel K. Inouye Solar Telescope site if you haven't checked that out yet. It's the highest resolution images ever of the sun, such as this very famous image. Will it blow up? Waiting. Anyway, the Daniel Inouye Telescope, part of the National Sunspot Observatory, will be featured in future cosmology segments. And now we've moved on to the oh my god! It's so scary. So scary. And if you're wondering why we made this particular meme here, it's because, well, if you're less than 102 years old, this is your first pandemic. And if you've noticed, large portions of the planet have had an utterly infantile response and reaction. And that's why we called it Fisher-Price My First Pandemic. Because, well, I'm a meme maker. And let me just engage in a little bit of
pandiculation.
Yes. My daily pandiculation. Now, if you're holed up inside and you hear sirens, one of the things you might want to do is check out Broadcastify.com. If you click on the Listen tab there, you can go to wherever you like, and let's go to New York City here, just so I can demonstrate how this works. You just click on your location, and here, like for instance, here's the Fire Department New York. It's got 374 listeners right now, and you just click play, and you'll get directly into their feed. You'll be able to hear what they're saying on their fire radios. Let's see if I can get anybody to say anything. In any case, Broadcastify.com. Use it for your scanner needs. If you have internet access, you can listen to what is being said on emergency radio. We've updated smAshomash.com/forums section on coronavirus. It's in the free-for-all forum down at the bottom, smAshomash.com/forum. There's an article about Iceland, who's tested more of its population than anybody else in the world, picked up from USA Today. Also a Zero Hedge article about total confirmed cases and so on. So if you haven't checked it out yet, it's smAshomash.com/forum. And thanks to everybody setting up logins over there. It's been a wild success. And we'll be beefing this up now and then over time, so look for constant changes. Also, to network your neighborhood, consider setting up Nextdoor.com. When I looked for our Nextdoor.com neighborhood, we didn't have one. So what I did is I became the lead for our Nextdoor.com account. And we've got approximately half of all the households in my local neighborhood. And with the connecting neighborhoods, we've got a network of about 2,200 people around where I am. It's super useful for things like crime prevention, as it's much easier for us to tell each other that there was a break-in, or the car was broken into or something like that, as well as bartering and trading and current events and all that sort of stuff. So perhaps if you run out of toilet paper, head to Nextdoor.com and sign up. They'll even send out postcards for free, physical postcards, since you're unlikely to know your neighbor's email address. And hey, now, stop that. Yes, that. You be Paul Orndorff. And the virus is the guy getting spike pile driven here. That's what we're trying to say. Also, when you're locked inside, perhaps consider listening to Dr. Steelshank, which has now risen up the charts to number 43. If we get it into the top 10, I'll give it out to everybody for free on Patreon and on Subscribestar. So if you get this into the top 10 in instrumental rock subgenre, I will give everybody the song for free, although you can buy it now for 99 cents to add to your MP3 collection or stream it for free. It's soundclick.com/GoldenCatProductions. And if you want to hear older and weirder tracks, these are all linked below our videos. SoundCloud.com/Daniel-Nigro-2. I'll play a tidbit from that. Here's a track called Dark Room. Now these are pretty old. Some of them are more like soundscapes. You may like it. You may hate it. Leave us a comment. Let us know. We appreciate all of your comments, whether they're positive, negative, or neutral. Next, we're looking at the jet streams here of the Western world, and we see them doubled up over the Western U.S., as well as over the Central Atlantic Ocean, and in the South, doubled up jet streams. Here are the Eastern jets. We always center that near India, and we see pretty extreme meridional jet stream flow, as has been the rule lately. And next we're looking at the water vapor maps of Africa. And why isn't it animated? Water vapor maps of Africa and Europe. There we go. Here are the water vapor maps for the Far East and Oceania. Come on, you can do it. For some reason it's not playing. Anyway, there's the still map. Here's a lightning map. I like to use lightningmaps.org. And there's where the lightning strikes are coming in right now. And let's look at the US Doppler radar before we go to the US water vapor map. And more snow falling in Pennsylvania, which is another Instagram post we put up yesterday, as I wished that I got snowed on, and indeed I did. There was a coating to a ½ inch around Mount Pocono area, and every place north of the Blue Mountain had some snow. And here's the US water vapor map. And we're going to zoom in on Central Texas today as we see a convergence, and it looks like sudden cloud nucleation happening. Anyway, there's the current state of affairs. Looks like a bunch of rain just fell. And thanks, Smash Team, for tuning in. Stay tuned for the bonus features, folks, as we've got bonus features. First of all of our posts on Subscribestar and Patreon are public for the entire month of April. So for uploading ringtones or MP3 music or digital images that nobody else gets access to, or just early news, providing the news crawler services before everybody else, things like coronal mass ejections, solar flares, all that stuff, all public for the entire month of April, as we're treating the month of April as a fundraising month right before we file our nonprofit paperwork. So again, subscribestar.com/smashomash and patreon.com/smashomash. Patreon is the true source of funding, at least the source of revenue for our videos. And thanks to our patrons, you'll get exclusive stuff once again starting May 1st that nobody will be able to see unless you drop us a couple bucks a month. Next, we'll look at the intensity gram of the sun to show you 0 sunspots. Here are the fields in colorized magnetogram. Congratulations on surviving another day during a global pandemic. Cheers. Well done. Spike pile drive that thing. Don't listen to the COVIDiots and the propaganda, as the levels of propaganda have risen well beyond measurable status, and I don't know what else to say besides wow. We're going to close things out by looking at one more view of the sun. It's the 131 angstroms, which is the other view, by the way, in addition to 94, that takes 10 photographs of the sun per minute instead of only 2 like the other scopes. And that's the reason why 94 and 131 angstroms are designed specifically to monitor solar flares. So if you want to go to HelioViewer and make yourself a custom movie of that, I recommend those 2 wavelengths. Although the 131 looks better at HelioViewer for some reason than the 94 does, and 94 looks better on the SDO. So I don't know what's up with that. In any case, time to vanish. Thanks for tuning in. Stare at the sun, don't drink, and if you do drink, don't drive. Have a lovely Easter weekend. Don't forget to visit the links below the video. Please support the channel if you are able, willing, and ready. And since it'll never be now again, welcome to the Neo-Renaissance. May the solar wind be at your back.